Hey guys, my name is Cardi Monroe, and thank you for listening to my special podcast called And There You Have It. This is episode 2, and we're talking about how I met my 3 good friends and the man that everyone wants to know more about. They all play a big part in my life and my journey, so I hope you enjoy and get to know my friends a little bit more. Thank you for listening. So every once in a blue moon, someone will show up in your life unexpectedly and change it for the better. That's exactly what happened when I met my friend Bailey. Bailey and I have been friends for a long time now, after first meeting each other at an internship here in Atlanta 10 years ago. The internship was for a very well-known marketing guru and promoter who was building a team of young people to promote events happening in the city. That's how I was able to connect and rub elbows with some very influential people who would eventually introduce me to the Atlanta culture and lifestyle. While waiting in a room full of other young, starving contenders, Bailey and I somehow ended up talking and connecting. I learned that day that Bailey and I had a lot in common. We both are fashion fanatics. We love to create, design, travel, and socialize. We spent the entire time talking and getting to know each other and forgot we were even there for a job. But it was time for us to interview, and one by one, we faced the music. I can tell that this was something Bailey really wanted, just as bad as I did. As we both took turns interviewing and waiting for each other to finish, there was a silent wish that we hoped the two of us would make it through. And as you would expect, we both got the internship. And that was the first time I would ever have a friend with benefits. Work benefits, that is. Although neither one of us completed the internship, we remained friends and relied on each other throughout our careers and personal life. As we had ventured on into our lives, it became apparent to me how special Bailey was. Bailey is just a few years older than I am. She's extremely smart with a degree in mass communication and loves supporting her friends. When I met Bailey, she was just ending a long and toxic relationship with a very toxic person. Although she desired to be committed to someone and to have kids one day, she was in no rush and would make the best of her new single life. Bailey wanted to see what the world was like and even thought about moving to New York City to pursue her career at Vogue as a creative director. Another thing her and I had in common. New York City hasn't happened yet, but Bailey went on to start her own creative event planning and service business. Much like myself, Bailey was driven, but there was one thing that she and I did not have in common. That being, I considered myself to be an idealist, whereas Bailey is a realist. We would sometimes disagree on certain things because I refuse to see things as they are. Bailey is true to her nature, not easily moved or swayed, and sometimes stuck in her own way. Now on to my friend Trish, who has also been a friend of mine just as long as Bailey. How Trish and I met was I posted an online ad that I was in need of an assistant. She responded, and I was very impressed by her resume and her accolades. She certainly seemed to be overqualified and way too talented. However, after a few email exchanges, we decided that we should meet up at a local Starbucks to talk more. And so we did. We met, and that very first encounter between us was miraculous. We spent the entire time talking as if we'd known each other our entire lives. Trish is an experienced actress and singer and had moved to Atlanta from Texas to further her career, hoping to become the next big thing. We spent only a few minutes discussing the assistant position and the rest of the time getting to know each other more. Trish is what you would consider to be a true Southern belle. Very classy, beautiful, kind, and loving. I can honestly say that meeting Trish was friends at first sight. We left the meeting, exchanged numbers, and kept in touch. Later on, Trish became a huge part of my life and was like a sister to me. Even sometimes a mentor, and we also became roommates. After living together for a while, I learned a lot about my friend. Trish's views on love, relationships, and sex were that of the unpopular opinion. I was totally convinced that she was so focused on her career that she didn't have time to date or give any guy the time or day. However, after having one of our usual deep conversations, Trish shared with me that she was still a virgin. Now, before you start to judge and speculate, Trish is very much so rooted in God and believes that sex should come only after marriage. She was not willing to forsake her beliefs or her morals for anyone or anything. I love that about Trish, because through her act of self-commitment, I was inspired and reminded to be committed to my own goals and dreams. At this point, I knew it was time to introduce Bailey and Trish to each other, and we will all, in the end, become a really good group of friends. In fact, we spent almost every single day together and talked about the various things happening in our lives, including dating and personal. Trish was the advice giver and spent most of her time preaching to us about the guys we were talking to or dating. Bailey, as you already know, is the nonconformist, marching to her own beat, and spent a great deal reminding us why things are the way they are. Then there's me, the inscrutable one. Not easily understood because I spent most of my time trying to be everything to everyone. That was until I met the final piece to the friend puzzle, my friend Marcelo. Marcel and I met shortly after I met Bailey and Trish, but our introduction was not in person. We actually met online via social media by connecting and becoming friends through an Instagram post. Marcel was living in a different state at the time, but was working his way up to becoming the next big talk show host and media personality in Atlanta. He was seen all over social media with his celebrity interviews and appearances. I was completely impressed by what he was doing, and I knew we had to connect, and so we did. Marcel and I instantly became friends. We exchanged numbers and would encourage each other throughout our careers. We watched each other grow and fall, but never stopped being there for one another. And like I said, before I met Marcel, I was busy trying to be everything to everyone. But he helped me realize that there's only one me, and the world needed to see that. He's a great friend, and oftentimes overprotective, and certainly isn't afraid to speak his mind, especially when it came to his sex life. In fact, I didn't mind him speaking about it either, since mine was non-existent. Marcel helped me understand that being free in mind, body, and spirit was essential and to be embraced. His lively personality is exactly what was needed to complete the friend group. And so then 3 became 4. Bailey, Trish, Marcel, and I had each other, and we had it going on. We were all on a journey to success, love, and friendship. With each of us being single, and at times some in a relationship, there was something we would all learn from each other. Marcel eventually moved to Atlanta, and that was the real beginning of our adventure. Now, I'm sure you're all wondering about mine and Mr. Biz relationship, and I'll get to that. So let me tell you first how we met. In the first episode, I talked about how I was first introduced to Biz by my friend Jordan. Jordan provided me with Biz's Instagram page, which is where I initially reached out to him on. Biz responded almost immediately and agreed that he would meet up with me so that we could plan him a photo shoot where I would be the stylist and creative director. I was surprised that he responded, but I think it had a lot to do with me mentioning to him our mutual friend. Now, of course, because of who he was, Biz gave me his email address to further communicate with him instead of his number, which of course made sense, especially when conducting business. He made it clear that he would be a while before we met because he was away working on an acting gig. But he promised that once he was finished or near completion, he would reach out directly to set up a meeting. Months went by, and even though we had not yet met, I looked forward to receiving random emails from Biz saying he can't wait to meet or hi, how are you? And I couldn't believe how nice of a person someone like him was to someone like me. I basically waited to hear from him because I knew he was busy and I didn't want to bother. So most of the time, he would initiate our conversation. It seemed strange at first that whenever we talked, it was never about business. I figured Biz wanted to know me personally, build a friendship before we began working together. I mean, it's not how I normally do things, but there wasn't anything normal about our situation. He was away in a different country working, so we couldn't meet face to face. I was just trying to create a name for myself in the business, whereas Biz was already established. And not to mention, he is also much older than I am. And so I knew that if I wanted this to work, meaning us working together, that I would most certainly have to follow his lead. At last, the time had come when I received the email I've been waiting for. Mr. Biz was finally coming to Atlanta, and it was time for us to meet. He really didn't give me much notice. In fact, he told me about him coming the day of because he was scheduled to be in Atlanta to do press for the production he was in. He also mentioned that he will only be here for one day and back out again. Nevertheless, I was just happy he reached out, and any time he had to spare was just fine with me. I was so excited, yet also very nervous. I had no idea what to expect and couldn't help but think, what if he doesn't like me? Or what if he cancels last minute or forgets? There were so many things running through my mind, but the biggest thing I couldn't stop thinking about was the speech I had prepared that I hoped would win him over as a client. I spent the rest of the day waiting to hear from him with the next steps of our meeting, and before you knew it, in came another email containing a location and time for us to meet. I was really nervous now, and I felt like I was going into this meeting unprepared because I didn't know what would take place. I just hoped that everything would go well. I eventually got in my car and started heading towards Mr. Biz. By this time, it was 8 o'clock, and he was staying downtown at a hotel he booked for the day. As I parked and walked into the hotel lobby, there he was, waiting for me. I was completely taken away and had no idea what to do or what to say. All I could do was look at his beautiful smile, his amazing physique, and notice how tall he was. After signing in with the concierge, I was then asked to follow Biz into a private room where it would just be he and I. And there you have it. Thank you for listening to episode 2. And please come back next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m. for episode 3 to find out exactly what happened inside that room with Biz and I.